Hi everyone and welcome to another video. Please excuse the fact that I'm like half in my pajamas today. It is so cold in Brighton, which I absolutely love, but my flat has humongous windows so it just doesn't heat up very quickly in the winter time. So I'm just all bundled up. I've got my cup of tea right here, lovely, ready to jump into this video. Now this video is one that I've been wanting to talk more in depth about for a long time, but it's only just felt like the time to do that because something is being done about it. I'm not gonna lie, it is a hard video for me to film. You guys know that I don't really show much of my body online, and a huge part of the reason is because of what I'm going to talk about. So it is pretty vulnerable for me to be filming this and including photos and videos and stuff, but also I think it's incredibly important to educate people on the subject matter, which is lipedema. I'm not sure on the correct pronunciation of lipedema, so I'm just going to be saying it like that. I have heard people say lipedema as well, but I'm just going to go with lipedema. That's what like flows out of me the easiest. Okay, so let's get cracking. Basically, by the time you're watching this video, I will have had my first surgery to remove lipedema on my calves. And I am going to go into what lipedema is, the treatment of it, the surgery, the cost of the surgery, and a little bit of background on my journey of what it's been like to deal with lipedema since puberty. So this is probably going to be quite a long video, but grab a snack, grab a drink if you are interested in learning more about it and learning why I am going to be having surgery. I'm actually going to be having 3 total. It is going to be a big undertaking, and it's something that I didn't want to hide from my channel when I do think that raising awareness for lipedema is very important. It's something that isn't spoken about enough, and it could have helped me a lot while going through this journey if I'd have had someone to look up to who also was dealing with it and had more information about it. I've written a little list. I say a little list. I've written a huge list of everything I want to talk about. So before I go fully into my journey with lipedema, I do want to give a little introduction onto what it is. If you are a little bit squeamish, I am going to include a couple of photos. I personally don't think that they're too squeamish, but maybe just look away from the video at this part if you don't want to see like the inside of what fat cells look like. Fantastic. If you've never heard about lipedema before, lipedema is a progressive disease that affects mostly women, and it's characterized by an accumulation of pathological fat, predominantly in the lower limbs and arms. These diseased fat cells accumulate water and fat, gradually increasing in size. I'm going to put a photo on screen right now of the difference between normal fat cells and lipedema fat cells. You can see how differently they're formed, but little by little, with the growth of these lipedema cells and the increase in pressure in the tissue, symptoms start to appear. Now, what are the symptoms? Let's go through them. The main symptom of lipedema is heaviness in the affected limbs, so your legs and your arms, spontaneous pain and pressure, a tendency to bruise, which, my God, do I bruise. I'm like Ross from Friends. I bruise like a peach. These are my legs right now. You can see before I've even gone into like what really lipedema is. Just look at my bruises, everyone. It is a bit ridiculous. Unlike normal fat cells, lipedema fat doesn't respond adequately to diet or exercise, which means that people with lipedema maintain the disproportion between limbs and the rest of their body over time. So as these cells build up, it becomes increasingly harder to diminish them. So again, I'm just gonna put pictures on screen of what lipedema can look like over time. The way that I would describe it, especially on the legs, is it becomes like you're wearing a pair of stockings that start at your ankles, and someone fills the stockings with like sand or something, and you've just got these big bulgy legs that start from your ankles. It doesn't affect your feet, so you just have normal feet, but it starts at your ankles and then they just bulge out all the way up. You've got no visible knees, no visible ankles in the later stages of lipedema, which is something that bothers me a lot. The fact that I don't have definition in my knees or my ankles, I really hate that. The cause for lipedema is unknown, although it is known that there's a marked hereditary and hormonal component, and the first signs usually appear with hormonal changes like the onset of puberty, after pregnancy, or menopause. Okay, so now you know what lipedema is, let's jump into my personal experience. It is something that I've touched on in a couple of videos in the past, but I've never really dove deep into my personal experience with lipedema because it is something that I have been so self-conscious about. Before we start, I just want to say clearly that everybody is beautiful. Everybody on this earth earth deserves to be loved. Everybody on this earth deserves to not feel ashamed of who they are, whether that be due to appearance, sexuality, gender. Like, you deserve to feel valued and loved for the person that you are. I am going to be talking about my experience, and I am going to put pictures on screen. Now, if you are triggered by seeing different body types and hearing people's personal thoughts on how they feel about their own body, please click out of this video. I really don't want this to be triggering to anybody. I really don't want it to come across that I think that anyone's body, if it looks remotely like what mine looks like now or before I lost weight, anywhere on my journey, I don't want anyone to think that I think that is a bad body and it's not worthy, because that is truly not the case. I do just want to speak honestly about my experience and how it has affected me, and I think honestly going through bullying and the amount of trolling that I have hasn't helped, and that is kind of a unique experience added to this as well, with having to be on camera. So let's jump in. Growing up, I always had bigger legs, but I was bigger everywhere. I was a larger child, I was a larger teenager. By the time that I was 18, I weighed around 280 pounds. So I was creeping on up to the 300-pound mark. Food truly was just my way of coping with the world. I was very bullied at school, and I have really gone into this story before, so I'm just gonna keep it kind of vague here. But that is the reason why I did gain so much weight. I basically found comfort in food and developed very unhealthy bad habits. I tried everything I could at the time to lose weight. I joined Weight Watchers. I tried every diet under the sun. I saw a dietitian for a couple of years, but eventually when I was 18, it got to a point where surgery was the best option for me at the time. So I did have a gastric sleeve. Now, as I said before this, my body was bigger everywhere, so I didn't notice that I had lipedema. Honestly, I just thought I was in a bigger body. But as I started to lose the weight, I think I lost around, I think it was like 9 to 10 stone, which is amazing. I did feel wonderful, but as the weight fell off my body, I was left with much larger legs. And I mean, lipedema for me personally doesn't affect my arms as much. It definitely is there on my arms, but it's not as prominent as it is on my legs. As I mentioned before, diet and exercise don't adequately lessen the symptoms. But before I knew more about lipedema, I tried every fad diet under the sun after I'd had my weight loss surgery to try and shift the fat on my legs, because I just didn't know why it was there. I didn't have a word for what it was. I just thought my body was disproportionate and I had to eat less calories, exercise more, take on incredibly unhealthy habits, quite honestly, to try and shift the weight on my legs, but it just would not go. My legs didn't get any smaller over time, no matter how badly I treated my body when it came to food and exercise, and that really, really affected my mental health. While I was dealing with the fact that I had lost so much weight, but none had really gone off my legs, I started my YouTube channel, which was so amazing for my confidence. Truly, it really was at first. I felt like people were seeing me for the first time ever, because when I was in my bigger body, I just felt honestly like people ignored me. People didn't really want to talk to me. They didn't really have any interest in me. How people with larger bodies are treated is vile, and having been in a larger body and now being in a small body, the difference is disturbing, quite honestly disturbing. So anyways, as I did lose the weight and started my YouTube channel, obviously you couldn't see my legs on my YouTube channel, so I gained a lot of confidence honestly by just having like this on screen. I mean, mine's the jumper right now, but by just having my top half on screen, I was getting so much confidence. But then came the time to meet new friends and meet other YouTubers. So when I did make my YouTube friends and I knew that they were going to be vlogging me, I thought, what can I do to kind of lessen the look of the lipedema in my legs and make my legs seem more proportionate? So I basically wore these tights that were actually so amazing. They're by Spanx, and I will leave a link to them below if any of you guys need a good pair of suck-in tights, because they did work very well for me. But I wore these Spanx tights under everything. So I would wear Spanx tights and then jeans, or like Spanx tights and then a skirt. And there was this one outfit that I wore all the time that I actually felt okay in, and looking back now, it actually melts my heart, because I mean, this is not my style nowadays, but it was the only outfit that I felt like I looked kind of proportionate in, so I would just wear it all the time. It was basically this black skirt with these Spanx tights underneath, and on top of the Spanx tights I would then wear another pair of suck-in shorts on top of that. So I had like double suck-in, then I wore my skirt, and then I wore this blue spotty top, and it was the only outfit that I felt remotely good in, because I felt like my legs didn't look that huge. huge. But because I was so self-conscious, I wore outfits like this in the summertime, and I used to get so much trolling from people being like, why on earth is she wearing tights in the summer and a long sleeve top? And like, it was just because I was so self-conscious, and I didn't want the world to know about my lipedema at that point, because I didn't even really know what it was. And like I said, it was okay when I was on my channel because I made sure not to show my legs, but when I was in other people's vlogs, I got a hell of a lot of trolling about my body, and that affected my mental health a lot. I just didn't want to be in videos anymore because I was so ashamed of my body and why I felt like I couldn't just wear shorts like other people, why my legs were so much bigger than like every other part of me. I just didn't understand it. When I first moved out, I moved to Brighton, and I got a personal trainer kind of pretty quickly after I moved here to see if that could shift the fat on my legs, and obviously it didn't. Nothing helped. I was actually in quite a small body at this point. I was wearing like size 10, I think, which for me is the smallest weight I've ever been, and I don't think it suits my frame actually. I think a size 12 suits my body. I don't think anything smaller than that looks healthy on me, but I wasn't treating my body well at all because I just wanted to get rid of this fat on my legs. So I was going to personal training, I think probably like 4 or 5 times a week, and I wasn't eating the correct amount of calories, I'm gonna be honest now. I was just so self-conscious, and I would have done anything to be in a body that felt proportionate. When you're dealing with lipedema, it's not just the vanity, it's not just the physical effects that it has on you. As I've shown you before, my legs bruise so easily. I also get a lot of pain in them. I feel like my knees are under a lot more stress because there is so much more weight on my legs. It does affect my knees, and I was really feeling that during personal training, but I wasn't saying anything about it because I was just so keen to get rid of this fat. Anyways, the damage I was doing to my body, my mental health, the trolling, the bullying I'd already been through when I was a lot bigger, all of these things mixed together made me feel incredibly hopeless, and I blamed myself a lot for not being able to lose this fat, which resulted in a horrible relationship with food and exercise, and it's taken me a long time to come back from that. This is why I think it's so important for me to raise awareness about lipedema, because if I'd have known about it sooner, if I'd have known that there was a reason why my legs were so much bigger than the rest of my body, there was a reason why diet and exercise wasn't working to get rid of it, I wouldn't have punished myself so hard. It wasn't my fault, but obviously none of this was helping, and it just made me feel worse and worse about myself and my body, and I just wish that I'd have known more about it at that time. I wish that I'd have known that there is help out there. There are things that you can do to slow down the progression, but also surgical intervention is an option as well, which is what I'm gonna be having now. I'm not gonna go into treatment in a second, but just carrying on with my journey. I now know that the best way to treat lipedema is with something called WAL, which is water jet assisted liposuction. But at the time I didn't know anything. I thought that I needed a leg lift. If you've watched my weight loss surgery video, you will know that this is the surgery that, it was the worst surgery I've ever had for one, but it was also the wrong surgery to have. When it comes to lipedema, there is a specialist way to treat it because the fat cells are so different to normal fat, but the more you know. So I went ahead and had something called a bilateral thigh lift, and that surgery went very wrong. The reason it went wrong is because it wasn't the right treatment for lipedema, but my surgeon didn't mention that. I thought it would be a cure for everything, but I ended up with super lumpy legs. And if you look at my legs now, I mean, I am not gonna enjoy sharing these pictures. They are something that I don't, you know, it's hard for me to come to terms with my legs. It still is, but at the same time, I'm trying to raise awareness. Okay, so if you look at the picture, you will see that my thighs specifically, I haven't ever had my calves operated on, but my thighs ended up being super lumpy. And this is basically where he went in with normal liposuction when he was doing the bilateral thigh lift, but normal liposuction isn't the best thing for lipedema fat because the fat cells are so different. It needs to be treated so specifically that basically he got rid of some of the fat, but then a lot of the fat is left. So where he's got rid of it, that skin is like right to my muscle, but then where it's left, I've got lumps of fat, and that is what you can see in my thighs. I just wish I'd known more at the time and known that this wasn't the surgery that I should have been having, but I didn't. And I mean, I don't want to live my life with regrets, but if I did have one regret, it would be having this surgery, because what started off as me being self-conscious about my legs turned into me being super self-conscious about my legs, because in my opinion, after this surgery, they were now worse than they were before. I didn't think there was a fix for lipedema until fairly recently when I found Dr. Burgos's page. He is a specialist lipedema surgeon. He is incredible. I have honestly been stalking his work for the last year, and just looking at the before and after transformations of his patients is incredible to me. And it does make me sad that I went through the bilateral thigh lift that went so wrong. If you want to know more about that surgery, go watch my weight loss video, because I do go into like the recovery of that and that they got infected, and it was just honestly the worst surgery I've ever had. And the fact that I went through that when it just wasn't what I needed, the surgeon that I went to clearly just didn't really know about lipedema. And I mean, if we're being honest here, the surgeon that I went to was kind of just like a yes man, which is the worst kind of surgeon to be, and that is the exact opposite of Dr. Burgos. But anyways, I am gonna leave a link to his Instagram below. If any of you have got lipedema or you just want to know more about it, go and look at the transformation photos. His work is incredible, completely life-changing. And I've actually spoken to, I think, 4 of the patients that have had this surgery with Dr. Burgos who have nothing but positive things to say. Like, their life has been completely changed in obviously the visual aspect, but also the pain and heaviness aspect as well. Let's move on to the treatment section. So how can you treat lipedema? As I've previously mentioned, diet and exercise don't diminish lipedema. They can help a little, and I have found that. I mean, recently I have lost 40 pounds and my legs have diminished in size a little, but it hasn't got rid of the bulk of the cells that are there. But there are certain things that you can do to slow down the onset. So you can wear compression daily, moderate exercise, especially underwater gymnastics or aqua gym. This is specifically good because, as I mentioned, when I was doing personal training, I had huge issues with my knees. They hurt so bad, whereas when you're in the water, it takes that pressure off of your legs. So that is a really good sport to do if you have got lipedema. And a specific massage called MLD, which I will go into in a second. These measures don't get rid of lipedema, they only delay the development of it. So as soon as you stop doing these things, the lipedema will just continue to worsen. Truly, the only thing that does help a lot is surgery. If you have lipedema and you don't want surgery, you can absolutely live an incredibly happy life with it. I think my view on my legs has been skewed a lot more because of the bullying and the trolling that I've had while being online. But if you do want to go ahead and have surgery, let's talk a little bit about that. So the most innovative technique to date to treat lipedema is WAL. This is water jet assisted liposuction, which removes the diseased fat cells without destroying the surrounding connective tissue structures, blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and nerves. It depends on the stage of lipedema that you have. I'm pretty sure I've got stage 3. I will have to double check that. If it's different, I will write on screen. But from what I remember, I've got stage 3 and I will be undergoing 3 surgeries to lessen my lipedema. So the first one starts on my calves, the second one will be the front of the thighs, and the third one will be the back of the thighs, flanks, and buttocks. I love that word. Each operation typically lasts between 120 and 210 minutes, and you'll be in the hospital overnight to be monitored by the incredible lipomedical team. The surgery basically removes a large volume of fat, which differs obviously from person to person. But you guys, the before and after photos are just insane. Again, I will leave Dr. Burgos's Instagram below. Please check them out while you're continuing to watch this video so you can see the incredible difference. After the surgery is done, it's super important to have something called MLD, which is manual lymphatic drainage. And you've got to have that for a minimum of 4 days a week for the first 7 to 10 days, and then 1 to 2 days for the remainder of the month. This really helps to aid with swelling and how quickly you're going to heal from these surgeries. Okay, now on to price. What does this cost? I did want to include this section because I know that there will be a few people with lipedema who do want to go down the surgical route who are interested. So, a couple of details. I'm going to be having my surgeries in Madrid in Spain with Dr. Burgos. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I'm so sorry. I know you're watching. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm sorry. You'll have to teach me when I'm there. But I will be under the Lipedema medical team. Full transparency here. I went into this process absolutely knowing I was going to pay for every surgery. However, after meeting Dr. Burgos, he very kindly offered for us two to work together to spread awareness about lipedema. I will be documenting the whole process of each surgery. I'll be vlogging it for you guys so you can see what recovery is like and stuff. But I did just want to make it clear that I am no longer paying for these surgeries. I'm paying for everything else surrounding them, but I did want to include obviously the surgery price in this price list. So each surgery costs 5,575 euros. If you're having 3, that totals 16,725 euros, which is around this much in pounds. I spoke earlier about the surgeon that I went to for my other leg surgery being kind of like a yes man and just doing the surgery without really talking me through it or doing the appropriate tests. Questionable service, very questionable. But Dr. Burgos is not like that at all. He required to meet me in Spain to get a formal diagnosis of lipedema, which obviously after seeing my legs, he confirmed that I do have lipedema and I have got that diagnosis. I then had to go through a few different scans and tests and things. So let's talk about that because I'm pretty sure everybody who has this surgery needs to have these tests as well. So when I was in Spain in October, I had an ultrasound Doppler to check for deep and superficial varicose veins. That cost £130. I then had to have a test that checked my lymphatic drainage in my legs, which cost £250. This was such a strange test to have. If you don't like anything to do with injections, skip ahead like a minute, but they basically injected between your big toe and your next toe, so like here on your foot. They injected this liquid into your legs and then you had to have an MRI scan to basically show the lymphatic drainage in your legs. It was very bizarre to go through, but that was all fine for me. And he basically just needs to check that because lipedema can affect your lymphatic drainage system. And I had to have compression made to order. So these obviously aren't compression trousers that you can just buy. You do have to go and have them made. I went to a pharmacy that's near the hospital. They measure every single bit of your legs. It was a 40-minute process of taking measurements of my legs. Those measurements then get sent off and your compression is made, but these compression garments cost £530. These are incredibly important though. You do have to wear them every day before your surgery for I think 6 to 8 weeks, and this just softens the tissue to make it easier to take the affected fat cells out. So before surgery in England, I had to have a comprehensive blood test that cost £582. This was to check everything. Dr. Burgos provided me with everything he needed to see to make sure I am in tip-top health to have this surgery. And I had to have an ECG as well, so an echocardiogram at £60 to check my heart. I mentioned MLD earlier. This is something that you have to have after surgery. I will be having it every day after surgery apart from the day after. So 10 days worth of MLD is costing around £1,000, and then I've got to have it 1 to 2 times a week in the UK for the remainder of the month, and it depends where you live, but that costs around £60 per MLD. So this whole process is very expensive. It's not something to take lightly. It's not something that I was just like, ooh, let's go and hop over and have surgery. Like, there's a lot involved with this process and it is going to be completely life-changing for me, but I did want to break down the price. You also do need to factor accommodation into that because you do need to stay for at least 10 days in Spain after your surgery to be monitored and to get the appropriate MLD with the people that they trust there. The decision to have this done isn't something that I've taken lightly. This has been something I've wanted done for years and years. Since I first knew what lipedema was, it is something that I've wanted to be treated, but obviously with this being like a 3-step process, it is such a huge undertaking. It's something that I've put off and put off until I found the absolute perfect surgeon for me. The trust I have in Dr. Burgos and his team is incredible. You can ask as many questions as you need to ask. You can ask for as much information as you need. They are there every step of the way and they truly do care. And this experience so far has been amazing, but I do just want you to know that obviously it's not something that I have taken lightly. It is a really huge undertaking, but I'm gonna be 29 this year, I'm gonna be 30 next year, and I just can't keep feeling the way I feel about my legs when there is something I can do to help them, in my personal opinion. It's something that has affected my life for way too long. I've given up so many opportunities, so many incredible opportunities. Like, it pains me to think about everything that I've given up because of how I feel about my legs. Because my legs are so lumpy right now, you can really see it through clothes. And because I can't control the camera, if I am on someone else's camera, if I'm potentially going to be on TV, the stage, anything like that with all of the harsh lights and like camera angles and different angles, it's just a no for me right now with how I feel about my legs. And it's something that I personally need to get sorted so that I feel like I can live my life freely and just without the weight on my shoulders of constantly worrying about what my legs look like and what people are going to say about them. It is different in that respect when you are an influencer and your every move is being watched. And again, I do just want to say that if you have got lipedema, you do not need to have this surgery to be beautiful. This is completely my experience, and with how I felt about my legs for how many years, probably like 10 years, it is just something that I need to do for myself and my mental health and to take away the bruising and the pain and just the constant worry. Anyways, I hope you guys have learned a little bit more about lipedema in this video. Again, I want to direct you to Dr. Burgos's page and the Lipomedical team's page. I'm gonna leave them linked below. They have some great resources there, some incredible before and after pictures. I know all of the girls that I've reached out to speak to about their experience with the surgery. They have been nothing but lovely and been willing to talk to me about it. And honestly, if you guys are watching, thank you for that. I really do appreciate that. It made this decision 100 times easier to know how life-changing it was for you. I am not gonna cry. This truly is gonna change my life, and I'm excited to take you along every step of the way. I am gonna be filming when I am in Madrid. I'm gonna be filming each surgery so you can see what the aftermath is like. I know you guys like my surgery videos, which is a weird thing to say.
Oh, hello. I'm just eating my sandwich. Do you want to show them the sandwich?
So, I mean, hopefully you will like them, and hopefully I'll get to explore a little bit of Madrid as well. That would be lovely. When I went in October, it was so nice. I felt really at home there. So I'm excited to go back. But yeah, by the time you see this video, I will have had my first surgery, and the vlog of the recovery for the first week or first 10 days or whatever will be coming when I get a chance to edit it. Bear with me because I'm probably horizontal on a bed right now in pain. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. This has been a super long video. If you've made it this far, you're a legend. Thank you. Thank you for always being supportive with everything I do. This is just the final step to me gaining my life back and gaining my power back when it comes to what I put out there. I'm gonna head off now. I'm actually gonna start packing my suitcase. Very exciting. But thank you again for watching, and I will see you in my first surgery vlog. Oh my god. Okay, bye guys.